Imagine being sent on a military mission, a mission so secret that almost nobody is supposed to know you're there. No headlines, no public records, and if something goes wrong, your country might deny you ever existed. This sounds like a Hollywood movie, but during World War II, the United States really did send men into dangerous missions that operated in the shadows. And one of the most fascinating examples was the story of America's secret military deception units. Men who didn't fight with overwhelming firepower, they fought with illusion. In the middle of World War II, the United States faced a massive problem. Germany had experienced commanders, powerful tanks, thousands of soldiers, and one of the most dangerous intelligence networks in Europe. The Allies knew that winning the war wouldn't always depend on who had the biggest army. Sometimes, winning meant convincing the enemy to look in the wrong direction. So the U.S. military began developing operations designed to manipulate German intelligence. The goal was simple: make the Germans believe something that wasn't true. Imagine looking across a battlefield and seeing an entire American armored division. Hundreds of tanks, thousands of soldiers, trucks moving supplies, radio messages filling the air, aircraft flying overhead. It would look like a massive force was preparing to attack. But there was one problem. Most of it wasn't real. The tanks were inflatable. The vehicles were sometimes wooden or fake. The radio traffic was carefully created. And the soldiers? There might be only a few hundred men behind the entire illusion. This was deception on an unbelievable scale. One of the units involved in this kind of warfare became known as the Ghost Army. Officially, these men were part of the U.S. Army, but their battlefield was different. They used sound, radio, visual tricks, and psychological deception. Their weapons weren't always bullets. Sometimes, their most powerful weapon was imagination. The artists, engineers, radio operators, sound specialists, truck drivers, photographers, and soldiers who understood how an enemy commander might think. Some could create convincing military markings. Others could construct fake equipment. And some were experts at creating realistic battlefield sounds. Imagine being in a quiet European forest at night and suddenly hearing the sound of hundreds of tanks approaching, engines roaring, trucks moving, heavy equipment being unloaded. A normal German soldier might assume an American armored force was nearby, but in reality, there might be almost nothing there. Just speakers, recordings, and a carefully planned deception. The most dangerous part was that the enemy didn't need to see the entire army. They only needed to believe it was there. That's what made the operation so powerful. If German commanders believed an American attack was coming from one location, they could move troops there. They could pull forces away from another battlefield. They could waste fuel, waste ammunition, and most importantly, waste time. And in war, time can be worth more than bullets. But these missions weren't games. The men creating the illusion were still close to the front lines. German artillery could still reach them, enemy aircraft could still find them, and if their deception failed, they could become an easy target. They were essentially pretending to be a much larger army while hoping the enemy never discovered the truth. One of the strangest things about the Ghost Army was how convincing their deception could become.
Fake tanks were positioned where real tanks would normally be. Fake camps were created. Vehicles were moved around to create tracks in the ground. Uniforms and insignia were used carefully. Radio operators transmitted realistic messages. Everything had to look believable, because one small mistake could expose the entire operation. And that's where the human side of the story becomes incredible. These weren't superheroes. They were ordinary American soldiers, young men who had families back home, men who probably never imagined that their job in a world war would involve painting fake equipment, recording sounds, or pretending to be someone they weren't. But they understood something important.